Congressman, we just want to thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. And we were just talking about the press release and the letter that you issued today, that you released today, about DHS Secretary Mayorkas, because he admits that they haven't followed the law. Have they even told people how many notice to appears that have been issued to people who've entered the country illegally? Because I can't imagine all these people are following up with an immigration judge after being released.
No, so you're right, Dana, on so many fronts. First of all, they're just releasing people with a notice saying, when we get you to wherever we're going, so we're going to take you. We get them there, and we say, oh, within 60 days, just call the nearest ICE office type of thing. That is not the NTA. And who is calling back? They don't know how many. And Secretary Mayorkas was so ill-informed, if I can put it that way, or had a lack of intellectual curiosity, that he didn't know how many kids were in custody, how many unaccompanied minors that they'd released into the Republic. He had no idea. And so when you start talking about NTAs and this experimental system that they were doing down in the Rio Grande Valley, because Rio Grande Valley was so overwhelmed, you realize something. They're not following the law. That's number one. Number two, they don't intend to follow the law. And number three, they are putting together a system to facilitate bringing people into the country illegally and be the logistic transport for those people anywhere in the country. And so they have no idea how many people those are. They can't give us that information. And by the way, and you're exactly right, how many of those people ever show up again, even with the NTAs? For instance, we have over 3 million people who have removal orders in this country who haven't been removed. They're wandering around the country because we don't keep track of them, because after we give the judicial order to leave, we say, well, we're going to give you a week, 10 days, or whatever, to go put your affairs in order before we put you out of the country. Well, they don't come back. 3 million people. And all this is going on. It's actually chaotic on the border. I talked to some Border Patrol agents again last night who were telling me they've never seen it like this. Morale is low. And Mayorkas, in my opinion, has got to go because he's not following the law. He's not enforcing the law. Yeah. And he's, in my opinion, we'll have to see, but it didn't sound like he was telling the whole truth before Congress when he testified last week.
Yeah, we're speaking with Congressman Andy Biggs. You some of the questions, like, how many who have not reported to ICE were arrested by ICE? It doesn't seem like, if Mayorkas isn't going to use every resource and every bit of authority he has as head of DHS, then what's the point of him being in that position in the first place?
No, I agree with you 100%. That's the deal, is he's not using the law and he's not enforcing it in any way. And then he had the temerity to go out in a press conference and say, yeah, the border is closed. The border is not closed. And they also mislead on the data and statistics that he gave. So when he says, oh, yeah, we're sending most people back. Well, maybe you're sending most single adult males back because you have the authority to do that under Title 42 still. But President Biden said you can't send unaccompanied minors back pursuant to Title 42. And they're not sending family units back. They're releasing those into the country. There are some of these kids who are being, thousands of kids are basically on a 3.5 week transfer. So they're in, and we hold them in custody for three weeks or so while we're trying to find them a sponsor. Then out they go. And then on the other hand, you're sending families out sometimes within 8 hours of being, we say apprehended, but they're surrendering. So within 8 hours of them surrendering, we're sending them on their way.
I was really interested in one of the quotes that Mayorkas gave when he was testifying there before that Senate committee. And he was saying that the previous administration, that the policies were antithetical to not just the needs of the department, but also U.S. values. It's just some of the stuff that he had said, and I know a lot of Republicans were. I think a lot of people were quite angry at that. That's not his job to determine. And first off, following the letter of the law is absolutely the spirit of the Constitution and the requirement of this republic. I mean, it comes down to, is this guy in this job to promote an ideology or to actually implement the letter of the law as voters have mandated? That's the big question.
That's a fair question. I tend to think he's there philosophically to support the Biden open borders policy, regardless of what his constitutional requirements and duty are. I mean, he took an oath to obey and follow the Constitution. He did not take an oath to obey and follow the philosophy of a left-wing open borders administration. But that's exactly what he's doing. I think he's overstayed his welcome. This administration could bring this under control fairly quickly, Dana, but they're not inclined to do so for whatever reason.
Yeah, we're speaking with Congressman Andy Biggs, who just joined us off the floor moments ago. I have a couple other questions for you real quick, Congressman. I know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you joining us. At the administration, because there's a lot of questions about why hasn't the vice president, I mean, how many days has it been now? She's the border czar, so to speak. She hasn't yet been to the actual border. She has gone to, I think she said she was looking at towards Central American countries, the triangle, and that it's the climate, it's the breakdown in those countries and violence in those countries that's causing the surge in migration. But those issues with regards to breakdown in certain countries with government rule and violence in countries and drug violence, et cetera, these issues have always existed. To say that isn't to sanction or agree with it, but those issues have always existed. It seems that the real changing factor here is the policy at the border and, the Remain in Mexico program, so on and so forth. Because while we still saw these instances under the Trump administration, we didn't see it even at peak during spring. We didn't see it anything like this. So maybe they should address that.
That you're exactly right again. I mean, so when he came in, the first thing he did was the President Biden, he got rid of the Remain in Mexico policy, and he killed 12 international agreements, including with the Northern Triangle states, on asylum and holding folks and keeping them in their countries. Well, what does that do? That immediately incentivizes them. What's the other thing he did? He said Title 42, which is designed to send people back out of this country because of COVID concerns. He said that's not going to apply to unaccompanied children anymore. Well, guess what? We're seeing a record number of unaccompanied children. The cartels are a business. They were incentivized then to start sending those people over. So Kamala Harris, it's been almost 60 days since she was tasked with fixing the border. She hasn't been down to the border. She's not going to come to the border because then she'd have to walk into some of the facilities like I've walked into over the last month or so, where you see kids piled side by side in small places where it's overcrowded. They've got the little metal blankets. You can go see the single adult males that are maybe there's 250 of them in a holding facility for 75. And there would be cameras there to take pictures of them with them. Our Border Patrol is doing their best, but this administration is putting their resources into what? In not stopping people at the border and sending them back. They're putting their resources into quickly transitioning them to get them into the country. One of the soft-sided facilities that they recently put up has a sign over it, and it's called a welcome center.
Yeah.
That's the philosophy of this administration.
And so it's troubling, and I really feel for a lot of these border towns, and I mean they're Democrat mayors, Democrat politicians in these towns. This is not just like a one-sided criticism of Biden's border policy. I mean there are Democrat elected officials who are saying this is a hardship on the towns in which we live. It's a hardship on the people here to do this. And one last quick question for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Mayorkas who was the one you just mentioned those facilities that they were storing. We all saw the video and the photos of these children that I think it was like over 70% capacity. It was or 70 times more what should have been in there, something like that. These holding areas were so full of kids there was not even room to lay down. Mayorkas, from what I understand, they had emptied out one facility and just relocated the kids. And then after the facility was emptied, then the press was invited in to look at it. And then they were told, oh, well, no, we've really reduced it. We really have a handle on what's happening at the border. It was Mayorkas that was really trying to sell this to the press, was it not?
That's my understanding. And what we're talking about is the old Soviet-style Potemkin village. We're going to set up something and fool you, and we're going to use you as useful idiots to get out there and tell the American people that everything's A-OK. But it's not. Thank goodness for Democrat Henry Cuellar in Congress, because he's the guy that got pictures and sent them out saying this is inhumane what they're doing. But then this administration quickly went into correctal mode. They took out some liquid erase stuff and started erasing whatever was there. They started scrubbing it down and brought in media to try to rebut that. But the fact that remains, we have more kids in custody than we have ever had before, and that's all on this administration. And Mayorkas is the secretary that has to answer to that. And he's basically, in my opinion, he's not dealing straight with the American people, and that's why he should go.
Yeah, neither are his bosses, the VP or the president. They don't even really want to address it, which is sad. They'll address everything else, but not this. Congressman Andy Biggs from the beautiful state of Arizona. So good to see you. Thank you so much for what you're doing. We appreciate your time today. I know you hustled over. I know you were running off that floor, so we appreciate your time.
Thanks, Danny. Good to be with you.
You too.